everyone, it's me again, Brittany, and I'm here today to do a wrap up for April. I know I skipped over March. I actually just didn't read anything in March, so there would have been no point to a wrap up. You know, you have to read something for a wrap up. So I'm so excited to be able to come back in April and tell you that I've read 5 books this month. 5! I know! What the heck? That's more than I've read like all year. Potentially. I'm also in kind of a new setup. I do have a reorganization video coming up soon, so don't worry, you're gonna get a whole good look-see at how long it took me to get all of this done. I have a cute little new shelf, and I don't know, I just kind of wanted to be in a chair today. I'm not sure if this is always gonna be a thing, but I wanted to try it out. Without further ado, let's jump into the 5 books I read this month. It was a pretty good reading month, especially compared to the rest of the months that I've had this year. I've really read only 1 or 2 books, I think, per month. The first book that I finished this month, which is probably one of my greatest accomplishments ever because this has been on my TBR for years. And that's gonna be Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. A few of you were asking. This is the illustrated edition. I believe you can find it just on Amazon or in Barnes & Noble. I think they sell it everywhere. But it is stunning. My one regret with this is that I didn't physically read it. I actually read it on audio, but I would have loved to physically read this. I know though that this is one of those books that I'm going to want to reread in the future, and when I do, I'm gonna have this stunning, stunning copy to flip through. So yes, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I was blown away. Honestly, I expected to not love it as much as I did. I did expect to like the series eventually, but I thought that I was gonna find it dull and boring and slow and too descriptive. I was so pleasantly surprised by how much I loved this. Yes, it was descriptive, but no, it wasn't slow. I think it's just having the background of the TV show and being able to compare what was going on in the TV show to what was happening in the book, like, was vital in that, but not really even, because when I was thinking about it, I wasn't picturing the characters as the characters from the TV show. I actually have like my own idea of what they look like in my head, which is weird because I felt, since I had watched the TV show before I read the book, that I would picture them as the characters from the TV show. There's just different people in my head. I really, really enjoyed this. It was fantastic. The ending was a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's the way that it ends with Daenerys. If you've read the book, then you know what I'm talking about. In that scene, I could tell that this was written by a man because what the hell. Besides that, it was really, really great. This is a very mature book, so if you aren't ready for the kind of descriptive and disgusting and, you know, content, I would be careful with this, but it was so, so good. I loved it. The next book that I read this month, I also listened to on audiobook. This was actually a very audiobook month. I've been having issues picking things up physically, but I'm glad that I've started to listen to audiobooks again because, you know, have to get my reading done some way. And that's gonna be The Devouring Gray by Christine Lynn Herman. I am actually so happy I read this book. I first found out about it through Rhiannon over at Crescent Moon Reads, and she was raving about it before it had even come out, and I was so curious to see what it was about, and I actually got the opportunity to work with the publisher to kind of promote the book, and I received a copy for that, and I loved it. This kind of gives me like the old school urban fantasy vibes in the way that it reminds me almost of like the L.J. Smith era, if you guys know what I'm talking about. It has that like creepy town and like surrounded by a forest and a mysterious magic system, but it also has elements of just newer things such as like Stranger Things. I think is a really good one to compare it to just because the evil thing in this very much reminds me of the other, is it The Other Side? I think it's called The Other Side in Stranger Things. I'm blanking right now. But it really reminds me of that, but it has its own twist to it, and the ending isn't something that I really expected at all. It really surprised me. I really loved these characters. They were so well-rounded. They all had their own personalities, their own motives, and there were so many questions about where their loyalties lied until the very end, kind of. I mean, even then, you know? So it was really a story about friendship and loyalty and learning to trust and moving on to, it has a lot to do with grief. There's some important topics, but in this like really cool and scary setting. So even though this reminds me of like the old school urban fantasy era, the characters curse and stuff, which is super cool to me because I feel like that really wasn't a thing in YA back in the day. Like, this is sort of like a newer thing that's been included in YA is cursing. This should have been added a long time ago. I mean, who has not heard a curse word? Next up, I read Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. I'm not really 100% sure how to say her last name. Oh, did I say what I gave Devouring Gray? So the Devouring Gray I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it. It just wasn't like the love of my life. Now, Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan, I loved this. This was my first experience listening to an audiobook and trying to annotate and keep up in the book, and I actually really enjoyed it. I kind of lost track in the end. I was so involved in the audiobook, but it was so incredible. I know why everyone was raving about it now. It's just such an interesting story, and there's such an interesting like magic system, and our main character is just, she's so strong and she's just going through a lot. It's really incredible. There is an LGBTQ plus relationship in this. It's between a girl and a girl, and I loved it. I actually really loved it. I was rooting for it from the start because I knew that there was going to be a LGBTQ plus relationship in this from the beginning, and I was very hesitant to see how it was going to be done. I know that sometimes they're done really well, but other times not as well. I mean, that can be said for any relationship in any book. But I was rooting for this one from the start. Like, I knew who it would be from the start. The second that character was introduced, I'm like, that's the one, and I loved it. It was so cool. You see like different sides of women in this book. You see different kinds of strength in women in this book. They're all in the same situation, these women. I haven't really been giving any summaries. I hate myself. I haven't been giving summaries and I feel like a dumbass, but we're just gonna ignore Game of Thrones because I feel like everyone knows what that's about, and I feel like I've given a lot of summaries for The Devouring Gray, so we're gonna ignore that too. But for Girls of Paper and Fire, this world, there are 3 different kinds of people. There are the, I forget like the last name for it, but basically the paper cast is 100% human. They don't have special abilities. They don't have any like demon blood in them. Then there's a cast in the middle, which is partially demon, partially human. They have some animalistic features. Think like the wizards in the Shadowhunter series. And then there's the, I think it's the Steel cast, but it's full demon. They are like 100% their demon form. They do still have like humanistic features because these are still humans that were just given demon forms. Well, they're just like magical beings in general, and they are the rulers of the world, and the paper cast are the worst in the world, which are just humans. So every single year, the Demon King picks 8 paper casts to be his concubine. He doesn't handpick them, someone else picks them for him, but there is a whole new cast every single year of concubines, and most women want to be a concubine in this world, but occasionally there are some that are just taken from their homes and forced into the position, like our main character, Lay. And so we're watching these concubines in this very interesting situation where they have to live outside of their homes, they have to serve a king in more ways than one, and they have to sort of deal with it, whether they wanted to or not. And we get to see the different kinds of strength that each one of them brings to the table, and I just think it was so well done. I really loved the ending. I didn't know there was gonna be another book, but I'm pretty sure there's gonna be another book, and I'm so excited about it, guys. Yeah, highly recommend. I know my thoughts were all over the place with this one, but 5 out of 5 stars. It was fantastic. The next book that I read this month is actually one that I didn't see myself reading ever at all, and I just kind of had to pick it up on a whim because while I was reorganizing my shelves, my Girls of Paper and Fire audiobook ran out. I had already unsubscribed from Scribd, that's a whole other thing, and I needed an audiobook, and so I went onto Libby and just tried to find the first thing that was available, and that's gonna be Bloodlines. It wasn't available, I just happened to have downloaded it a while ago and it was about to expire and I'd forgotten about it. But that's Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead. This is a continuation of the Vampire Academy series, a series which I hold near and dear to my heart. I love the Vampire Academy series. I love Vasilisa Dragomir and Rose Hathaway and Dmitry Belikov, I believe is what his name was. What's his last name? Dmitry. And I loved that series. I loved it so much that I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to move on to Bloodlines because this follows like a different group of people. We still have some of our people from the original Vampire Academy series, but they're with these new people, these different people that we actually were introduced to at the very end of the Vampire Academy series, and I just wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. I didn't think I would like it. I love it. I don't think I'll ever think that this series will be better than the Vampire Academy series because that one's just way too high up in my list of loves. but it was really dang good. So I don't really know how to summarize this without spoiling any of the events that happened in the Vampire Academy series. But we do follow the alchemists, which are these group of people that we're introduced to in Vampire Academy. I'm not going to really describe what they do or anything like that because that's kind of something that you find out as you go through that series. We follow one of the alchemists named Sydney, and she is given a mission, and it involves one of the characters in the last books. This is almost impossible to summarize. Just know that this is all basically pretty spoilery unless you've finished the other series. We do get to see some of our fave babies from Vampire Academy, which is really nice. I like seeing them. I like having them around. I do think that her writing did improve for Bloodlines. I kind of mentioned this in my reading vlog, but the one thing that really stood out to me was that I believe that our main character Sydney is not pleased with her body, and she is kind of taking it to a different level though. We hear many times from Adrian that she's too skinny, that she needs to eat more, that she's on a weird diet. And then in the very beginning of the book, there was a scene between her and the person in charge of the uniforms in the school where she asks for a size 2, and when they give it to her and she tries it on, the dresser tells them, that fits you, but if you got a size 4, it would fit you even better because that one's a little tight around your arms and this, and that. And she's very offended by it, and she's like, no, I'm a size 2, I'm a size 2, I'm a size 2. And she kind of really goes off on it. And this is before we'd really known that she was having like body issues. So at first I just kind of thought that Rochelle Mead was going way too hard on a size 4 because size 4 is nothing, guys. Later on we get to see more of those topics being dealt with, and I think it's going to be something that is dealt with more in the books to follow, but I'm really excited to read the next books and see how I end up feeling about them. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars because even though I really enjoyed it, the writing still isn't that amazing, and I did actually guess who was in charge of like the big bad situation in this, like who was behind the mystery. So yeah. And lastly, I read Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. Yeah, I expected to like this more than I did. I knew that I was gonna have issues with it. I knew that a lot of people had mentioned having issues with it, and I kind of knew what to expect going in, but I still was hopeful. I thought that maybe it would kind of be one of those almost like trashy YA novels that I really end up enjoying. It didn't end up being that way for me. I feel like a lot of the times there was just situations that our characters are put in that I felt were unrealistic or unnecessary, that were just kind of added into the story when they didn't have to be there. Like there was no use for that scene being in this book. Like I think that half of these scenes could have been cut out and this book would have had the exact same ending. I did guess what was going to happen in the end. I wasn't even remotely surprised. One of the big things that I noticed last night when I was finishing up the audiobook was that I hadn't laughed once. And that's a big thing for me. I need humor in books. I need like at least a giggle. Like I don't need a lot. I don't need to be rolling on the floor laughing or just crying my eyes out because I'm laughing so hard. I don't need that, but I want to giggle every once in a while, and I normally do. I almost always do, and in this one I found that the jokes that were told just fell flat for me. I just didn't enjoy them. The ending was ridiculous to me. That was one of the scenes where I was just rolling my eyes. I was like, really? I did really like the friendship aspects in this. I think that their friendship dynamic is really good. If you didn't know, Zenith has to do with like an all-girl pirate crew controlled by the Bloody Baroness, or Androma, who is running away from her past in one way or another, and her motley crew of pirate girls is also running away from their past, and they're just killing machines, like fighting their way through the world, and then they get captured and have to save a governor's son. I believe it's a governor. Some kind of world leader. We get introduced to an ex-boyfriend. I think my biggest issue was Andy's character was very annoying to me because she just switches from one version of herself to the other. She goes from the Bloody Baroness who could kill anyone and doesn't care and is a killing machine and just has no remorse, to this very guilt-ridden person. I understand having a guilty conscience, but this takes it to a whole new level. Like, she shouldn't be killing as much because her guilty conscience is insane. She like tallies her kills on her blades, and every night she has like a routine where she says goodbye to all the people that she's killed in a dance. She's constantly thinking about it and people are constantly like putting her down for it. And it was a very weird contrast and I just wasn't very fond of it. Like if you're gonna be a killing machine, I understand having some remorse, but this is just too much. This is taking it to another level. Yeah, I didn't love it. I'm not 100% sure yet whether or not I'm gonna pick up the next book. I have hopes that maybe the next one will be better just because I know that one of the things that people are saying about Zenith is that maybe they just didn't spend enough time in editing and that's what happened because the process was really rushed for it, and maybe with Nexus they'll spend more time, fix their mistakes. I probably will wait on whatever reviews come out for it and then maybe pick it up. I don't know. I gave this 2 stars out of 5 stars. I feel really harsh. I do want to mention really fast, I hold nothing against the authors. I think the authors are incredible. This isn't me like bashing them or anything like that. I'm just saying like this book did not go with me. And it might go with other people. This might be something that other people enjoy. It's just not my cup of tea. So yes. So those are all the books that I read this month. I had a really good time reviewing them for you guys. I know that it was a little all over the place, and if you need any more information on them, they will be all linked down below in the description bar, as well as my links to social media and all that good stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye! Ugh, oh, from the chair, that's really hard.